Hi, everyone. We are Eastern Standard Time group number 2. We replicated our project on the effects of group contingency on cell phone usage during work-related tasks. We will start by introducing ourselves.
I'm Melissa Harris. I have been in the field for almost a year now as an RBT.
I'm Emily. I've been in the field for almost 2 years as an RBT.
My name is Kaylee Hill, and I am an RBT for a year now.
My name is Pierre Richard. I am a psychologist for 10 years until now.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shannon Carroll. I've been in the field for about 2 years now as an in-home ABA therapist.
So we will start with the supporting literature that we found. A lot of the research that we found focused on adolescents and cell phone addiction, which correlates well with our study because it was based upon teenagers ages 14 through 18. The first study discussed many mental health issues related to cell phone addiction, and it conducted a questionnaire that concluded that mental and physical health is greatly linked to cell phone addiction. The second study focused on college students, and it also concluded that cell phone usage and addiction correlates with anxiety, depression, even suicidal thoughts. It also concluded that these effects are not more prominent in male or female. The third study we found tracked cell phone usage in academic settings, and it used a series of questionnaires, cell phone usage trackers. It pulled academic records to find that for every 10-minute period of cell phone usage during class correlated with a decrease of the students' grades going down by 0.63. The fourth study we found was focused on middle schoolers. It used a self-monitoring phase and an interdependent group contingency like the one that we replicated for our study. The results of this showed that for both of the intervention methods, the off-task behaviors decreased by 80%. The final study we found is based on 262 participants, and it observed the number of cell phone interruptions versus productivity at work. It used an online survey, and the results indicated that more cell phone usage correlated with negative work productivity. And that concludes the literature section. We will go on with the purpose.
The purpose of this study was to examine the effect of a group contingency, and then we used doing the work task and compare whether or not the result from the study align or the result from the original study that we choose to be replicated. So why we replicate our study? Basically, the replication is the most important tools for the verification of fact within the empirical sciences. So any pieces of research must be repeated by other investigators before its finding can be considered as reasonable, well established. Give us the credibility for the conclusion of everything that we have trying to prove as a scientific research. So we when the study are replicated and achieve the same similar result as the original study, so it's give greater validity to the finding. That's the reason why we are replicating this study, because we are trying to see if compared to the original study, what's going on if we are trying to replicate this one So the result will be a like or dislike. We are trying to replicate, so just for these purposes. And for the participants, participants include 5 graduate students enrolled in SPCE 611 during the 2021 semester, summer. And for the setting, data was collected either at home or at work, because remember, we are all a student and we are working also. So the time frame, if we are home, we may decide to collect the data at home, or if we are at work, we decided to collect the data at work. So whenever the time is convenient for us, we may choose to collect the data wherever we are, and based on our responsibility. The material used, we have used pencils and paper to record data, and a screen time tracker, and we share Google Docs sheet and to keep track of contribution. We use also Zoom download and computer for mini. The method of the target behavior was cell phone usage, because the article we have publicated it was the problem behavior, or the target behavior was cell phone usage. So cell phone usage was defined as participants using one or both hands to manipulate the phone by touching the screens and to light it up or unlocking the phone, engage in non-work school or related activities. Data collection, we have used spatial interval recording, 10 minutes interval of 90-minute sessions each. Participants indicate that on the data sheet if the behavior occur during any time or in 10 minutes interval. No particular data sheet required, just whatever participant to use and to keep track of the data. So one participant used a screen time tracker in order to collect data for their cell phone usage on doing the replication project. Design, we have used AB reversal design to replicate this project. That the study that we were replicating and also use AB reversal design, but the baseline for us to get replicate the study, we have to use that AB as the 2 baseline and 2 or more baseline, or 2 or more method or intervention. So participants use necessary materials collection for data collection on cell phone usage. Data collection took place while we were at work and while completing homework. Baseline and phase length will vary across participants between 2 and 5 days. Treatment phases, participants were notified that by members of the group that the contingency was if group members refrained from using their cell phone during the session, then we would not be an extra meeting for time during the week. Data collection took place during work hours or while completing homework. This in every ABAB design, the RA participant paired up to be RA partners. So that means to get to collect data together. When we pair with an RA partner, we have to independently connect data, because what is the RA? I'm going to explain you what is the benefits of the RA. The benefits, I think I'm thinking about 4 IOA importance or benefits. First, it determines the competence of new observer. detect, observe drift over the course of a study, increase confidence that the target behavior was clearly defined, and confirm that change in data is due to change in behavior and not in data collection. And this is the four benefits of IOA data collection. So the inter-observer agreement refers to the degree to which two or more interdependent observers report the same observed values after measuring the same event. That is data, that's agreement data collection. So participant, I was pretty aligned with the operational definition because you were either staying on task or on your phone. Our results were 100% reliability.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about our results. And first we'll talk about Shannon's. So looking at her graph, we can see first of all that her behavior did decrease across both intervention sessions. So looking at her baseline, you can see that her frequency ranged from 7 to 8, and then during intervention, it decreased significantly, ranging from 1 to 3. And then as baseline was introduced again, her behavior increased almost back to the normal levels as we collected in baseline the first time. So it ranged from 6 to 7 instances and then decreased to 1 to 2. So overall, her behavior did decrease significantly during the intervention. And next we have Kaylee's. And as you can see by her graph, her behavior was a little bit variable throughout all of the conditions. So during her first baseline, her frequencies were 3 to 4. And then as intervention was introduced, you can see that it did decrease, but for the most part, it relatively stayed the same as baseline. So we can see that one session during her baseline was she got on her phone 3 times, and then during the intervention, 2 of the sessions remained at that level at 3. So there wasn't a big significant difference in her behavior during that intervention phase. And as we returned to baseline, her behavior was still variable. It ranged from 1 to 4. And then as intervention was introduced the second time, it ranged from 0 to 3. So there wasn't a clear decrease in the behavior, but there was a slight decrease. Next, we have my data. So looking at my graph, we can see that the behavior did decrease across both conditions, or both interventions, sorry. So during my first baseline, I ranged between 4 and 6. And then as the intervention was introduced, my behavior dropped to 0 and remained that way across all intervention sessions, sorry. And then as baseline came back around, it increased to the levels as the first baseline, and then decreased again once intervention was reintroduced. Next, we have Pierre, and we can see by his graph that his behavior also decreased significantly during intervention. So looking at his baseline, we can see that his values ranged from 25 to 39, and then significantly decreased, ranging from 5 to 11 during the first intervention. So that was a very significant decrease. And then as baseline was returned, it went back up, ranging from 21 to 32, and then decreased again to 6 to 10. So that was also a significant decrease in his behavior. And now we have Emily's data. And as we can see by her graph, during the first intervention, behavior didn't really change. It remained relatively the same, but it did end up decreasing during the second intervention phase. So looking at her first baseline, we can see that the values ranged from 4 to 5. And then as intervention started, it ranged from 3 to 4. So it did decrease a little bit, but relatively remained the same. As baseline came around again, her behavior increased more so than it was during the first baseline, and then decreased during the intervention. So her behavior went from ranging from 5 to 9 instances to 0 to 2 instances. So although at first there wasn't a significant decrease in the behavior, eventually there was during the second intervention. So comparing our results with the original study, so the original study, they did find that the group contingency was effective. So they looked at students in a classroom and said, if you don't get on your phone, you get 10 minutes of uninterrupted cell phone time at the end of class. So they found that it was effective at decreasing the the students' cell phone use, sorry. And then our replication results are in line with that. So although one of our participants didn't see a real decrease in her behavior, overall 4 out of 5 of our participants did. So overall it was effective at decreasing cell phone use.
So to conclude, the purpose of our study was to examine the effects of a group contingency on decreasing cell phone usage when completing work-related tasks. And similar to the study that we replicated, there was significant behavior change witnessed overall. So 3 participants showed high levels of behavior during baseline phases and then low levels of behavior in the intervention phases. And the 4th participant showed high levels of cell phone usage initially, even though her first intervention didn't change as much. And to end, her last intervention phase was low. We did have one participant that did not show much behavior change, but overall the results represent a strong functional relationship between cell phone usage and the implemented group contingency. As the replicated study found, participants are less likely to use their cell phones when given a group contingency. This research is meaningful because cell phone usage is an issue that many people encounter in many situations. When using a cell phone in the workplace or in the classroom, we're spending less time and attention on our tasks. The aim of our group contingency was to use our cell phones less, to focus more on school and on work. And 4 out of 5 of us did see a significant behavior change, and we were able to focus more on our tasks rather than our cell phones. Future research should attempt to assess productivity rather than cell phone usage. It could be beneficial to see the differences in amount of work that could be done with a cell phone present compared to when it's not. Studies can also aim to examine the effectiveness of cell phone alerts that encourage people to put their phones away. In our study, participants were required to use their cell phones for work-related purposes, which may have led to higher occurrences of usage due to already being on our cell phones. So although it was being used for work and we didn't count it as cell phone usage against our participants, it might be better if future studies should make sure their participants do not need their cell phones in order to do their work, because there might be less occurrences of them using their phones.
So while replicating this study, we did come into some limitations. So the first limitation is the demographics of the problems of population chosen, which means, as adults, we have adult responsibilities. And so, some of us have children, my dog was actually at doggy daycare during one of the interventions while my husband was out of town. And so I was like the primary caller if something were to go wrong. So, some of us are married and things like that. And so with adult responsibilities, having our phone could be important for emergencies. The second limitation was the time frame. During the study, it was high schoolers during the day. And for some of us, we are not allowed to be on our phones at all during the day to remain HIPAA compliant and things like that. And so like our cell phone goes in a cubby or something like that, we don't have it on our person at all. And so to not have that temptation of checking our cell phone may have made the data a little inaccurate for that reason. So the third limitation was the reliability app. It required you to keep checking to make sure it was recording a lot, which in itself could keep you off task to make sure that it was still recording. Sometimes the app would stop recording randomly, or the screen would shut off, which means that you would lose all your recording data, so you'd have to start over and things like that. And so sometimes it could be a hassle to make sure that it was recording correctly. So the fourth limitation was having multiple notifications, where like some people use Gmail for their personal email and work email. And so when a Gmail notification comes up, it's hard to tell which is which. And part of our operational definition was that we couldn't even look or read a non-work related thing. And so, it was a little tough to remember to turn off all your notifications other than work related things before the intervention started. So that was kind of a limitation too. The last part, 5 and 6 kind of go together with the IOA data. We're just remaining HIPAA compliant. We had to do our IOA data at night instead of during the day, and things like that. So, and then sending the videos was quite challenging because the videos were really long. And so we did a lot of recording, and then the videos would be too long. So we would have to re-record and things like that, and trying to send it through email. And it was a lot of trial and error until we realized to do a YouTube video, which ended up being successful. So there was just some limitations there while doing the case study. So, and that concludes our presentation. So thank you so much for watching.